It's a very rainy day here today, but the sun keeps peeking in and out, so you might see the rainbows behind me today, you might not. It's okay. I have my window open because my cat's in it. Hopefully the rain provides a little bit of ambiance to the video. If not, I'm sorry. But let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, you guys, these are the 3 palettes that I randomized last week for this eyeshadow palette roulette declutter, and I have to say this was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. The very first palette that I used was the Josh Flamingo Garden because I really like the blushes in this palette, and I was certain this was going to be a top contender for my declutter, like the one I'm going to keep, because I like the blushes in this. However, the very first day I used this, I used these blushes and I used these eyeshadows, and obviously the look was good, but it wasn't a standout one. And I actually have these blushes in my other face palettes. So this one very quickly got decluttered in my head because I knew that I would not reach for this palette. And that held true for the rest of the week. While this was the first palette I used, I did not reach in for the blushes or any other shade in this palette for the rest of the week. So this one definitely got decluttered very, very quickly. The next palette that I used is going to be the number 7, and this is just their limited edition eye palette. I believe this is from 2 Christmases ago, and this is the palette that I said when I randomized this palette that it was going to be a it was very close to the palette that I use all the time that I have in my collection, and this color story was very, very similar to it. So this one might just be decluttered because of that, and that kind of holds true. While I do like the shimmers in this, they don't have glitter fallout, and I love the mattes. The looks come out beautifully in this palette. I actually already have these shades, and I do not need another one of these in my collection. Now, having said that, I do like the eyeshadows in this palette. However, this palette, like this palette, did not get reached for again this week. After I used it once, I kind of got my idea in my head that this was going to be decluttered, and it just kind of already left my collection. So these 2 palettes I did not reach for beyond the first initial time. So that leaves, of course, the Roaring 20 Indulgence palette by Cosmetics, and I love this palette. I did say when I rolled this in that I do not use palettes this big very often, but I did find that I enjoyed doing different looks with this palette. Yesterday I wore a green sweater and I used this shade here and the Manhattan shade here, and I really actually enjoyed the green look that I got from this. Other than that, I used Zoot Suit every day. That is actually the shade that I have on my eyelids today. I only have that shade and the shade Harlem on my eyelids today, and this is the look that I got. It's very plain, it's very simple. This Zoot Suit is like a pink to gold there, and it goes with pretty much every look that I did, and I really did enjoy that. So this palette here, I enjoyed every look that I did with it, and I have not even dipped into all the shades, but I can honestly say this quickly became my favorite palette of the week. Of course, put up to the other 2 palettes that I had in this declutter. That wasn't a hard like jump or leap to get to, but this one was definitely a favorite, and I found that no matter what outfit I wore, I could get a look from this palette that I liked. I also used this palette with my Natasha Denona single that I got as a point perk from Sephora. I used a Zoot Suit there in the inner corner, and I thought that was a really, really lovely look. So I have to say, out of this palette, this one was the standout shade. I really thought it was going to be this Art Deco, which is this really pretty shade, or even Manhattan. And while I did use those shades and I did really, really like the look, the standout shade was Zoot Suit because I used it in every look from the first time I used this palette to today all over the lid. It was just gorgeous. So this one, if you can't tell by all that rambling, is going to be staying in my collection this week. So that, of course, is going to bring us to the randomizing the next palettes for this week. And I'm kind of excited about this because my list, like my wheel, if you guys can see, it's getting smaller and smaller. That means I'm whittling down my collection, which is the whole point of this. I couldn't declutter my eyeshadow palettes until I started doing this. And now that I'm forcing myself to use them and really look at them, it has become so easy to declutter 2 palettes every week, and that is fantastic. So my wheel is getting very, very small here, and I am enjoying this declutter. I hope you guys are enjoying following me along on this declutter. But all of that to say, let's randomize my next palettes. Loud. I forgot to turn down my sound again on my phone. So we got the Natasha Denona Retro Glam. I actually have pan in that palette. It was a favorite for so long. The ColourPop Going Coconuts. Ooh, this is gonna be a tough week, I can tell you that already. And the Too Faced Sweet Peach. Okay, this is gonna be a tough week. Let me go ahead and grab those palettes. Okay, you guys, I am actually really kind of nervous about this declutter. After I just got done saying I was enjoying this declutter and I was enjoying getting rid of 2 palettes every week. These palettes were in my easily accessible drawer because these are favorites of mine. I use them quite a bit. Okay, maybe not so much this one, but these two are favorites of mine. So the first one that I did was the Natasha Denona Retro Glam. This is, I believe, my only Natasha Denona palette, but as you guys can see, this is a very well-loved palette. There are huge dips in a ton of shades. I have pan on a shade. This is well-loved. Like, when people show their Natasha Denona collections, I look for people to have like pan in them and dips and stuff like that, not pristine palettes. This one I used forever. I went through a phase where I used, what is this, Lucy right here and Oscar. They were my go-to shades. I use them every single day. If I was not wearing that, I was wearing French here with Marlin and Oz, and that was my go-to. The only shade that I really don't use is this one right here, which is Belle, but every single shade in this palette, if you notice, has huge dips in it, well loved. Oh my gosh, just the thought of decluttering this palette right now is like making my heart race. I'm not even kidding. Oof, okay. The next palette is the Too Faced Sweet Peach, which has been a love of mine for a very, very long time. Again, as you guys can see, there is dips in this because I have used it so much. There's no pan in these shades. They're a little bit more hard pressed than the Natasha Denona one, but I love this. I love this for the summertime. This is perfect for this time of year. This is gorgeous. Oh, I'm looking at this and really just starting to get a little bit nervous about this week's declutter. We'll have to see how it goes. Now, I will say I do not use the Talk Derby to Me, or what is this one? Delectable, Peach Pit, Tempting. Those are shades that I never really use in this palette. I usually stay to this side of it just because I like the peachy tones, but ooh, okay. And then the last one is going to be the Going Coconuts palette, and I can tell you right now this one's probably getting decluttered because put up against those 2 palettes, this doesn't even stand a chance. Like, you can tell I've barely used this palette, and I talked previously about the ColourPop Deja Brew being more my neutral color story than this one. So I can tell you right now that this one's probably going to be the one that gets decluttered, but it will still stay in this week to give me a little bit of a buffer between 2 loves of mine. You guys, I'm really nervous about this week, and I'm sorry about my dog snoring in the background. I'm sitting over here looking at him, and he's really sawing some Z's there. Whew, okay, so this week I am putting these 3 to the test. Oh, you guys, this is gonna be a tough one. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and I will see you next week to decide which one of those 3 that I'm going to be keeping. See you next week. Bye.